Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Better Thyself segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Till now, we have been hearing the word compromise. This word you hear very often thrown around, especially when describing relationships. But now this, I feel there is a time to rethink about this word. This word has lost most of its connotation, most of its relevance. In fact, most relationship experts will say that being able to meet halfway is an essential part of having a successful relationship. Is this advice really valid or is it unproductive? Like most of the advice, pieces of advice given by the so called coaches, gurus, guides, and mentors, even this advice meet halfway is injurious to the personality of a person. For example, you're married. You're dead set on having children in the future, but your partner is not so keen on the idea. You might not be able to negotiate your needs or try to make so would make you both miserable. Not only that, suppose you have children and you never wanted them. Psychologically, you are inflicting such a punishment on them that it's almost unpardonable. What you have got to realize is that you have to draw a line between healthy and unhealthy compromise. How much should you really be giving to live harmoniously with a partner? Now, I'm not saying that you should adopt a policy of confrontation, not at all. Compromise, especially if it's healthy, is very much required. You 100% cannot be dogmatic, especially in a relationship. It's a matter of give and take, and compromise an important ingredient. But if you take all the time and never give on the part of one partner, and give all the time and never take, has deleterious effect on both the partners. And that is something which is abhorrent, which is not at all acceptable, which must be avoided at all costs. Do not ever forget the foundation of healthy compromise is self awareness. Start by asking yourself, what do you want out of this relationship? What do you need from this relationship to get there? You can think about small or big things, everything from the vision of the work to kids to where you want to live eventually. But then relationship does not only mean marriage. Relationship means your relationship with the colleagues, your relationship with the boss, and if you're in business, your relationship with the customer, everything. So everywhere you have got to see how far you can go and where you draw a line where you can say no, where you can put a foot firmly on the ground and say thus far, no further. Because going further is jumping headlong into an abyss from where you cannot escape. As I was saying, that you have always got to think about various parameters of your psychology, your psyche, and your needs. It sounds simple, but these questions and your answers on your own before bringing them to your partner can help you be clear about your expectations, allowing you to communicate more effectively and avoid a confrontation. Once you have laid down the boundary, then there is no confrontation because both parties in a relationship do not want confrontation. Reality is none wants. The only thing is both want to be assertive. Ideal is bring the issues that trouble you to your partner, whether it's a life partner, whether it's a work partner, or we are. Be honest, be upfront, be specific what you want, and also what you need out of your partnership, your relationship. You see, normally when we are in a relationship of whatever nature, we never try to explain what we need out of it. So you need to have a three-part conversation start. And this conversation should be based on your actual needs. You need something. Why do you need it? How does it help you? And how is not going to negatively affect either your partner or your relationship. Bring home your point with simple requests. Can we not carve out a time, say, in the weekend to make sure that we prioritize it? Can you not rethink about it? Or would that work for you? Very simple, very common request, but made in a way to make the other feel important. Boost the ego, not with the purpose of boosting the ego, but with the purpose of establishing a proper relationship. The wrong way to approach your request would be to complain about your present situation. You must remember, you don't want to put your relationship down or your partner down. You want them to see and understand your story, at least your side of the story. If your partner is the one requesting a compromise, then your response should be that you are open to hearing them out as much as possible. Do not think that once you agree with a partner, you are making a sacrifice. No. This concept of sacrifice, which people talk about, is absolutely detestable. And it makes people resist you. And not only resist you, they feel, well, this guy, by talking about a sacrifice, is trying to make it obligatory for us to listen to him. No, that's not done. It's time to rethink. You need to reconsider the notion of making concessions. Making concession is not an act of obligation. It's an act of living, working together. Doing something for your partner doesn't need to feel like a loss if the action brings you both joy, love, fulfillment, satisfaction. At the same time, you need to recognize when a request your partner makes doesn't feel right. You have to ask yourself if this is something you're open to, does it align with your values? If you have doubt, ask for a clarification. What are they asking specifically? You see, our problem is that when one partner asks something and we are not sure what it is, we do not break down that request into specific action. Each job, each work, each request, each desire has a component of diverse action plan. So you can always break them down specifically. And then say, okay, this is acceptable, this is not possible. Can we make a compromise on this, or can we go around this in this way? So if it affects your sense of self or something that you really value in your life, it may not be a great fit. No, and the worst thing is that normally what happens? We agree to it. Emotional blackmail, temporary benefit, all that make us feel obligated to accept. And then what happens? Discontent, heartburning, And at one time, it can result in a breakdown as well, breakdown in the relationship. When your partner, your friend, your life partner brings up a request or a compromise, ask yourself, could you be proud of this change? Could it help you grow? Could you learn from trying it on? No harm, at least in trying, provided there's no harm, palpable harm. Does it gel with your personal values? Now you see, again, 90% of us have personal values and they don't adhere to them. They're always willing to sacrifice those values. And that's why you can see, because you sacrifice your own basic values, you are unhappy. You may have a relationship, but if you're unhappy, that's a sure sign of not a happy relationship. Your compromise should come as not as an obligation, not as a necessity, but as either as an act of love or as an act of acceptance without heart burning. So, if you answer yes to most of the questions that rise, then the request appears to be perfectly doable. Ultimately, you've got to decide whether it makes you feel about good yourself, about your partner, your relationship. Then, of course, compromise is absolutely welcome. Now, imagine you have a person and you both are in dire circumstances, and the person suggests, why not rob a bank? And gives you all the enticing reasons. I know this way out, and we can easily go into it. Now, compromise, stupid compromise, of course, would mean that you agree to that and indulge in this practice. And is that compromise? No. This is committing harakiri. But suppose you are not living in this world. You are living in a tribe where committing theft is an act of honor. And there are tribes, I know it. There are about 40 tribes in India where when you come a man, you come of age, your first act has to be, it's a test that have you committed a theft. If you have not successfully committed a theft, then you are yet not a man. So, in those tribes, if you compromise and say, no, I'm not going to do it, then you are harming yourself. Because compromise means adjusting to the values that you have, and the value that the society in which you live has. Normally, committing theft, telling a lie, cheating are abhorrent in the modern society. But in these primitive tribal societies, some things are very common. For example, there is a tribe in Assam where only that girl can be married who has become pregnant before marriage. They say, no, if the girl is not fertile, we're not going to marry her. So if the girls over there start saying, no, we are not going to compromise, then that is something going to be awful for them. So either they change the position, leave that society, come to a different society, or you accept it. So compromise is dependent on diverse factors. It's a societal function. It's a personal function. And if you can differentiate between the societal aspect and personal aspect, then you can be successful and then you can be a better person. But whatever it may be, if your self esteem and your sense of self worth is suffering, then no compromise is worth undertaking. That is non negotiable. As a human being, you have to ensure that your self esteem and sense of self worth do not suffer Consider whether you're compromising too much. And if you are, you might have to take another look at what's going on in your relationship. Is that relationship where you're constantly asked to compromise on your values worth keeping? These are the various meaning matters. There are subtle nuances, and these nuances are known only to you. So you have got to evaluate them as per the situation, as per your personal values, and as per your need of that relationship and your value of that relationship. Need may not be important, but the value. But compromising for the sake of compromising, you must always be sure that such a compromise would ultimately be disaster, and it's better not to have it. Can you ever compromise when you demean yourself? The answer will be no. Although compromise is healthy, although compromise is a sign of maturity, but too much compromise is a sign of slavery and is not at all acceptable. Think about it. Thank you.